The night I almost died in the underground parking lot, my editor thought it was a good idea to give me a bodyguard. I was balancing a cardboard tray of lukewarm coffee in one hand, a stack of notes pressed against my chest with the other, and my phone cradled against my shoulder as I muttered a half-baked excuse to my landlord. It was late, and the garage smelled like gasoline and damp concrete. The fluorescent lights above hummed with that migraine-inducing buzz, flickering just enough to make the shadows seem alive. My car waited at the far end, a dented gray hatchback that had survived 3 riots, 2 hurricanes, and 1 very bad breakup. Tonight, though, it didn't sound like it wanted to survive anything. I slid into the driver's seat, dumped the papers onto the passenger side, and shoved the key into the ignition. The engine coughed awake. I shifted into reverse, foot on the brake, except the brake didn't feel right. It sank under my foot like butter left out in the sun. My pulse jumped. I pressed harder. The car lurched backward, rolling faster, the steering wheel jerking as if it had a mind of its own. My coffee tray toppled, splattering across the floor. "Not tonight," I hissed, slamming both feet onto the pedal. The hatchback didn't slow. A concrete column rushed toward me, headlights flashing against yellow paint. That's when a hand slammed against my hood. The car screeched, metal shrieking like it had been forced to stop by an invisible wall. My seatbelt dug into my ribs. My head snapped forward, then back, leaving my vision white and ringing. When I blinked the haze away, a man stood in front of the car. No, not a man. He was tall, taller than anyone had a right to be, with hair as black as the shadows between the fluorescent lights. His coat moved like it was caught in a breeze that didn't exist, and his eyes weren't human. They glowed faintly, a silver-blue light that pulsed in rhythm with my hammering heartbeat. He tilted his head, studying me like I was the strange one here. Then he stepped closer, boots silent against the concrete. "You should be more careful," he said, voice calm, precise. Too calm. Like someone delivering news of a delayed train, not saving a woman from a crash. I shoved the door open and stumbled out. "Who the hell are you?" He didn't flinch. "Your bodyguard." I froze. "Excuse me?" "Appointed by your editor." He said it like it was fact carved in stone. "My name is Kael," I laughed. It came out sharp and ugly, echoing around the garage. "You stop my car like that, and tell me you're my bodyguard? Is this a joke?" His gaze sharpened. "Do you think your brakes failed by accident?" The question landed like a stone in my gut. I swallowed, throat dry. I wanted to say yes, of course, old car, it happens. But the way he looked at me, like he could peel back excuses as easily as skin, made lying impossible. He stepped closer. I caught a faint glow under his collar, like lines of fire running along his skin. "Tattoos?" "No, symbols." They shimmered faintly, disappearing when I blinked. "What are you?" I whispered before I could stop myself. He smiled without warmth. "The only thing keeping you alive right now?" I should have run. I should have screamed. Instead, I stood there like an idiot, trembling. And he saw it. His pupils narrowed like a predator's. "Good," he murmured. "Don't be afraid to feel it." That snapped me out of it. "Excuse me? You're enjoying this?" "I need it," he said simply. "Your fear fuels me. The stronger it is, the stronger my protection becomes." I barked a laugh, half hysteria, half defiance. "Great. I'm basically an all-you-can-eat buffet of anxiety. How convenient for you." "Convenient for both of us," Kael replied. "No, see, I don't do bodyguards," I shot back, pointing at him like I could stab him with my finger. "I work alone. I don't need someone breathing down my neck, especially not some glowing-eyed creep with a superiority complex." For the first time, something like amusement flickered in his expression. "Creep? That's a new one. Leave," I snapped. My hands were still shaking, but I forced the words out. "Go back to whatever comic book you crawled out of." Kael didn't move. He stood as if rooted to the spot, arms at his sides, gaze fixed on me. "You'll get used to me," he said quietly. "You'll have to." "Why?" "Because they'll try again." The words landed like a blade against my spine. I hated that I shivered. He noticed. Of course he noticed. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Don't fight it. Be afraid. Or better." He leaned in. his voice low, deliberate. Be more afraid. I'll need it. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. I told myself I hated him already. I told myself I'd call the editor and demand this arrangement be over. But the truth settled in my chest like a second heartbeat. For the first time in my career, I wasn't just chasing danger. Danger was chasing me back. And this demon, because I knew that's what he was the only thing standing between me and the column I almost became part of. The newsroom looked like a glass aquarium stuffed with caffeine-addicted fish. Reporters darted between desks, clutching printouts and half-empty mugs, while the hum of computers mixed with the murmur of ringing phones. Neon lights from the city bled through the floor-to-ceiling windows, staining the office in restless pink and blue. I barely made it 2 steps inside before Mara's voice cut through the chaos. Vale! Her office was all glass walls and sharp edges, just like her. Mara Lynn, my editor-in-chief, was a legend in the city. 45, perfectly pressed suits, eyes like polished obsidian. She motioned me inside without looking up from the tablet in her hand. You've got a week, she said, tapping at a headline draft. 7 days, Iris. If the story doesn't drop by then, it's dead. I closed the door behind me, trying not to notice the faint reflection of Kael standing in the hallway. Too tall, too still. Mara, you asked for something that takes months of work. You want clean leads, confirmed documents, actual sources. I want results, she interrupted, crisp as paper tearing. We're not in the business of waiting for perfection. We're in the business of impact. Translation, she wanted fire, even if it burned me alive. I pinched the bridge of my nose. If I rush it, I'll lose credibility. You'll lose relevance, she snapped back. Relevance keeps the lights on. My jaw clenched. Of course she wasn't wrong. But the casual way she gambled with my life and my sources made me want to hurl her expensive tablet through the glass wall. When I stepped out, Kael was leaning against the window like some brooding statue, eyes narrowed. Watching. Always watching. I ignored him and stalked to my desk. The papers I'd abandoned last night were stacked neatly, too neatly. My coffee had been replaced with a fresh cup. I didn't have to guess who did it. Rough day? Devon's voice floated from the desk across from mine. Devon Pike had the kind of smile that could sell lies to your grandmother. Early 30s, polished hair, always in shirt sleeves rolled to the elbow like he was about to do some real work but never quite did. He leaned over the divider, holding out a flash drive. Thought you might need a hand, he said. Got a contact in the utilities department. They're skittish, but with the right push. I frowned. You don't even cover city contracts. True. His smile widened. But I like helping friends. My stomach nodded. Devon never did anything without a reason. And the way he said friends sounded less like solidarity and more like possession. Appreciate it, I muttered, sliding the drive onto my desk. I had no intention of plugging it in until I scanned it 6 ways from Sunday. So, he leaned closer, lowering his voice. Where'd you find your main source on the port scandal? The guy sounded solid, but I swear I've never seen his name before. There it was. Too eager, too pointed. I plastered on a smile. Trade secret. Devon chuckled, like I just told him a clever joke. But his eyes lingered too long, sharp and calculating. Behind me, I felt the air shift. Kael had moved closer. He didn't say a word, but the weight of his presence pressed against my back. Devon's gaze flicked to him, then back to me. What's with the new shadow? Corporate security? I forced a laugh. Something like that. Devon shrugged, pretending it didn't matter. But I caught the twitch at the corner of his mouth, the flicker of annoyance he didn't bother to hide. As the conversation ended, Kael finally spoke, low enough only I could hear. He lies. I startled. You don't even know him. I don't need to. Kael's silver-blue eyes scanned Devon's retreating back. He reeks of ambition. And fear. A dangerous mix. I hugged my notes tighter. You think everyone's dangerous, everyone is. Some more than others. I sat down heavily, staring at the glow of my monitor. Around me, the newsroom roared with deadlines and chatter. To everyone else, Kael was just a tall, silent bodyguard. An odd choice, maybe, but nothing remarkable. To me, he was a reminder I couldn't shake. I wasn't free anymore. They see him as protection, I thought, glaring at the reflection of his silhouette in the glass wall. But to me, he's a cage that feeds on my weakness. I took a sip of my coffee, hoping the bitterness would drown out the thought. But Kael's reflection lingered, steady as a locked door, and for the first time I wondered if the real danger wasn't out there in the city, but sitting right across from me. My apartment looked like the inside of my head, cluttered, caffeinated, and one bad night away from collapse. The living room wall was plastered with sticky notes and printouts, a crime board of corruption threads, held together with red yarn and stubbornness. Half-finished coffee cups decorated every surface. My couch sagged like it had given up years ago, and in the middle of it all, slouched at my dining table, was my younger brother. "Luca," I said, kicking the door shut with my heel. "What are you doing here?" He flinched, like he hadn't expected me so soon. His hoodie was rumpled, his hands restless on the table, a lighter flicking open and shut with nervous rhythm. He didn't look at me. Just dropping by, he muttered. "Right," I said flatly, dumping my bag and coat onto the couch. "Because you always drop by when I've got deadlines and murder attempts on my to-do list." He winced at my tone, but still avoided my eyes. My stomach sank. Luca was a lot of things, reckless, charming, occasionally infuriating, but bad liar he was not. Which meant he was hiding something too big for charm. I pulled out a chair across from him, spit it out. The lighter clicked again. His knee bounced under the table. Finally he exhaled, shoulders slumping. "I owe people, a lot of people, money I don't have." I stared at him, words fizzing and dying on my tongue. Anger, fear, exhaustion, all of it tangled together. "How much?" He hesitated. Too long. "Luca," my voice cracked like a whip. His eyes finally met mine. They were bloodshot, guilty, desperate. Enough to get their attention. Silence expanded, pressing down on my chest. My baby brother, the kid I'd practically raised after our parents bailed, was tangled up with the same kind of men I spent my career exposing. "You've got to be kidding me," I whispered. "You were the only family I had left, the only one not swallowed by this city's garbage. And now you're part of it." "I didn't have a choice. There's always a choice." My hands shook on the table. "You think these people will forgive debts? They'll own you. They'll use you. And when they're done, they'll break you." Luca's mouth opened, but before he could answer, my phone buzzed on the counter. Unknown number. I hesitated. The screen pulsed like a warning. Against my better judgment, I answered. A man's voice, low and casual, "Miss Vale. Family is such a fragile thing, isn't it? Would be a shame if yours got misplaced." Cold slid down my spine. "Who is this?" A chuckle. "Just a reminder. Print whatever stories you like, but remember, you bleed the same as everyone else." The line went dead. My fingers were white around the phone. Luca looked at me, pale, guilty, terrified, and in the doorway, leaning against the frame with arms folded, was Kael. I hadn't even noticed him move from the hall. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes burned faintly in the dim light. "You see," he said quietly. "They already know where to strike." I shoved the phone into my pocket and glared at him. "This is my family, not your battlefield." He didn't flinch. "If you want to live, you follow my rules. I control your routes. You don't argue." His calm tone was infuriating. Like my life, my brother's mistakes were just pieces on a board he'd already mapped out. "I don't take orders in my own home," I snapped. He tilted his head. "Then consider it advice." The heat in my chest nearly boiled over, but Luca's trembling hands kept me from exploding. I bit down the words, because fury wouldn't solve his mess tonight. Instead, I stood abruptly. "Fine, take the couch, don't touch my files, and don't get comfortable." Kael didn't argue. He walked past me, scanning the apartment like a soldier clearing a perimeter. His eyes swept over the wall of notes, the sink full of dishes, the stack of laundry in the corner. Then he bent down, pulled something from the pile, and held it up between two fingers. It was my favorite pajama set. Pink, covered in cartoon owls with oversized eyes. Kael's lips curved into something dangerously close to amusement. "This," he said, "is more terrifying than the mafia." My face burned. "Put that down." He draped it over the back of the chair like a flag of surrender. "Noted. I'll add bad fashion choices to the list of threats." For the first time that night, a laugh sputtered out of me, sharp, bitter, but real. Maybe it was hysteria, maybe it was relief. But standing there, glaring at my demonic bodyguard while my brother buried his face in his hands, I realized two things. One, my life was officially spiraling out of control, and two, the only way out was straight through the fire. By the time I got to the newsroom the next morning, the office was already vibrating like a beehive. Phones rang, monitors flashed, and the hum of chatter was louder than I'd ever heard. Because the story was live. My story. It sat on the front page of the site, headline blazing like a match thrown onto gasoline, Port Authority tied to mafia kickbacks. "Vale!" Mara barked from her office, waving her tablet like a trophy. "The mayor's office just called. You've rattled their cage." Reporters swarmed my desk, voices overlapping. "How'd you get that document? Did you really talk to Salvi's guy? Are you worried about retaliation? Worried?" I was practically vibrating. Pride and dread tangled in my chest like barbed wire. This was the moment every journalist dreamed of, the story that could make or break a career. And it was mine. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Calls from unknown numbers. Emails pouring in, some praising me, some threatening me. One text read simply, "You should have stayed quiet." I stared at it, pulse hammering. That's when I felt it, the shift in the air. Kael was behind me. I didn't need to turn to know. He radiated stillness in a room full of chaos, like a shadow cast too sharply. I caught his reflection in the glass divider. His skin shimmered faintly, lines crawling along his neck and disappearing under his collar. Not tattoos, something alive, moving, pulsing with a faint silver glow. I spun around. "What the hell is that?" His expression didn't change. "Your fear, excuse me?" He stepped closer, low enough for only me to hear. "Every call, every threat, every heartbeat you're trying to smother, it feeds into me. The stronger the surge, the stronger my shield." I gaped. "So you're saying you want me to panic?" "I want you to live," he corrected, eyes narrowing. "The trembling is just a side effect." I laughed sharply, too loud. A couple of coworkers glanced over, puzzled, but I waved them off. "Fantastic. I'm basically a portable fear generator for your supernatural power-ups. Should I start hyperventilating for extra juice?" The faintest smirk tugged at his mouth. "Not necessary. You're doing fine." I wanted to slap him, or maybe myself for noticing the smirk at all. By evening, the newsroom was a blur of ringing phones and flashing headlines. Mara was still shouting into 3 calls at once when I finally escaped, dragging Kael with me down the elevator and out into the city. The bar down the street was dim and noisy, neon signs buzzing above cracked leather booths. It smelled of beer, fried food, and desperation, the journalist's second home. I slid into a booth and ordered whiskey neat. Kael didn't order anything. He just sat across from me, arms folded, like a gargoyle posted on duty. I threw back the drink, warmth searing down my throat, but it didn't loosen the knot in my chest. "So let me get this straight," I said, slamming the glass down. "Every time someone threatens me, you get stronger?" "Yes. And every time I stop being afraid, you get weaker?" "Yes." I leaned forward, narrowing my eyes. "Sounds like a conflict of interest. You protecting me only works if I stay terrified." His gaze was steady, silver blue eyes catching the neon light. "I don't create the danger, Iris. It already exists. I only use what you give me. That's convenient. It's survival." Something in his tone shut me up. Not harsh, not cold, just true. Like gravity. I stared into my empty glass, fingers tight around the rim. My career was finally catching fire. But so was everything else, my family, my safety, maybe even my sanity. Across from me, Kael watched without blinking, the faint shimmer still crawling along his skin. A reminder that my heartbeat was painted on him like a map. And for one dangerous second I felt safer, which terrified me more than the threats ever could. The night air smelled like burnt coffee and city rain. After too many hours in the newsroom, I dragged myself to a corner cafe that never asked questions and always poured strong. The neon sign flickered above the glass door, painting the sidewalk in sickly green. Kael leaned against the wall outside, arms folded, eyes scanning the street like he was carved from stone. His presence was infuriating. Silent, steady, unshakable. I was halfway through my cappuccino when a man in a delivery jacket stepped inside, baseball cap pulled low, box tucked under one arm. He moved straight toward me. "Delivery for Iris Vale," he said. I blinked. I didn't order anything. Maybe a friend did. He shoved the box toward me, impatient. Before I could reach for it, Kael was there. 1 second across the room, the next looming between us, his hand pressed flat against the cardboard. "Wrong address," Kael said evenly. The man's face twitched. His other hand dipped into his jacket. "Gun." The cafe erupted in shouts as Kael shoved me down behind the table. The first shot cracked through glass, sending shards raining across the floor. My heart seized, breath frozen in my lungs. Kael moved like smoke, faster than the eye could follow. His arm swept, a shimmer of silver light blooming into a shield that caught the next bullet midair. Sparks scattered. "Stay down," he ordered. I scrambled backward as chairs toppled. The delivery man bolted through the door, vanishing into the alley. Kael hauled me up none too gently. "Move." We spilled into the night, the wet pavement glistening under street lamps. The shooter sprinted ahead, jacket flapping. Kael gave chase, pulling me with him. My pulse pounded so hard I could barely hear over it. Another shot rang out, ricocheting off Kael's glowing barrier. He snarled, grip tightening on my wrist. The shield flickered, light stuttering. "What's happening?" I gasped. "You're blocking it," he snapped. "What?" "Your fear. Stop locking it down." His voice cracked like thunder. "I need it." I realized then I'd been biting it back, forcing myself into numbness, pretending I wasn't afraid because fear felt like losing. And with every forced breath of false bravery, the light around him dimmed. We turned a corner into the alley. Shadows stretched long, dumpsters stank of rot. The gunman stumbled, turned, fired wildly. Kael's shield barely caught it, light faltering. "Don't play hero, Iris." His eyes burned silver. "Be afraid. Be honest." The words tore through me. My chest clenched, the terror I'd been suppressing bursting free, hot, raw, undeniable. The shield roared back to life, exploding with light that flared across Kael's skin like living tattoos. The gunman froze, blinded. Kael surged forward, disarming him with brutal efficiency. The weapon clattered to the ground. A single blow sent the man sprawling. I collapsed against the wall, shaking. My fear hummed like an electric current, and I could see it crawling across Kael's skin, those same shifting sigils, bright and alive. "That," he said, standing over the unconscious attacker, chest heaving, "is why you don't fake courage. Your lies weaken me. Your truth keeps you alive." I swallowed hard, still trembling. "So you're telling me my panic attack just saved us?" His gaze locked onto mine. "Yes." Somewhere down the alley, footsteps echoed. I glanced over just in time to see Devon, Pike, of all people, turning the corner. He froze when he spotted us. Kael glowing like a storm, me a mess on the ground, the gunman sprawled unconscious. Wow." Devon raised his hands in mock surrender. "Didn't expect to find you here. Just cutting through on my way home." "Convenient route," Kael said flatly, eyes narrowing. Devon gave a weak laugh. "Yeah, small city, huh?" Then he hurried off, too fast, too eager. I hugged my arms around myself, shivers refusing to stop. Devon's sudden appearance. The fake delivery. The way Kael fed off every beat of my pulse. For the first time, the truth lodged deep in my chest, undeniable. My emotions weren't just mine anymore. They were his weapon. And maybe, terrifyingly, my only defense. By evening, the newsroom was quieter than usual. Phones still rang, keyboards still clattered, but the energy was off, like everyone had decided to keep their heads down. I knew why. My sources were vanishing. One by one, the people who had trusted me, dock workers, accountants, even the city clerk who risked his career handing me files, either went silent or outright refused to take my calls. Some numbers were disconnected. Some inboxes bounced back with user not available. Others sent curt messages, don't contact me again. My chest tightened with every rejection. Fear I could handle. Rage, too. But this, watching my network unravel in real time, it felt like a knife in the ribs. I spread the call logs across my desk, trying to trace what they had in common. And then I saw it. Every single one of them had been contacted again, right after I'd spoken to them. A second call. A second conversation. My stomach dropped. Only a handful of people in the newsroom had access to my list, and Devon was at the top of that handful. I found him in the break room, leaning casually against the counter, sipping his third coffee of the night like nothing was wrong. The smell of burnt espresso made my throat tighten. "You've been busy," I said, holding up the call logs. He looked up too quickly. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Don't play dumb." I slammed the papers on the counter. "They're gone, Devon. Every source I had. Do you want to explain why?" His smile wavered just for a second, then returned. Smaller, sharper. "Look, Iris, you're good at digging. I'll give you that. But you're too loud, too obvious. You paint targets on people. So you what, handed them over?" My voice cracked. His jaw flexed. "I didn't hand them over. I just didn't stop others from finding them." My pulse roared in my ears. "You leaked them." He set the coffee down with shaking hands. "Do you understand what we're dealing with? These people don't just threaten, they kill. I didn't want to end up floating in the harbor because I got caught in your crusade." "You think I don't know the risk?" I snapped, tears stinging the corners of my eyes. "Every day I wonder if today's the day someone follows me home. But you," I jabbed a finger at his chest, "you didn't just save yourself. You signed their death warrants." Devon's face hardened. "Better theirs than mine." The words gutted me. "You were supposed to be my colleague," I whispered. "My friend." He flinched but didn't take it back. Didn't deny it. The sound of the door creaking made us both turn. Kael stood in the doorway, silent as a shadow, silver eyes flicking between us. Devon paled. "What is he doing here?" "Watching," Kael said simply. His presence filled the room, pressing against the walls. Devon muttered something under his breath and brushed past him, retreating down the hall with his coffee clenched like a shield. The moment he was gone, I sagged against the counter, my fists trembling. Anger buzzed through me, but under it was something worse, grief. Because Devon wasn't just a coworker. He'd been the first person who'd vouched for me when I joined the paper. He'd shared stories over late nights and cheap takeout. He'd once said we were in the trenches together. Now I realized I'd been fighting beside a man who already had one foot out of the foxhole. Kael's voice cut through the haze. "You still think people are worth trusting?" I glared at him. "Don't you dare lecture me right now." His expression didn't shift. "It's not a lecture, it's an observation. You trust, you bleed. You trust again, you bleed more." I wrapped my arms around myself, the newsroom noise muffled beyond the walls. My head felt heavy, my chest hollow. "I'd rather bleed," I whispered, "than be like him." Kael tilted his head, watching me with that infuriating calm. "Then prepare to bleed a lot." For once, I had no comeback. Just the sour taste of betrayal thick in my mouth. The newsroom was quieter the next morning, though it wasn't peace. It was the silence of people waiting for the next explosion. Devon avoided my gaze entirely, and I returned the favor. Every keystroke, every muffled phone call scraped against my nerves like static. I needed air. Wandering past Mara's glass-walled office, I caught her voice, sharp, controlled, threaded with impatience. She was on the phone, pacing in front of the window. I might have walked on if not for the name that slipped from her lips. "Kael," I froze. "You'll stay on her," she said, clipped and businesslike. "Yes, I authorized the contract myself. Don't worry about her consent, she doesn't need to know." The words slammed into me like a car crash. My pulse roared in my ears. Authorize the contract, without me, without telling me. I pushed the door open. "What did you just say?" Mara turned, startled, but only for a heartbeat. Then her mask slid back into place, smooth, cool, infuriating. "Iris, do you mind? I'm in the middle of something." I stepped inside, shutting the door behind me. You signed a contract with him? I jabbed a finger toward the glass where Kael's shadow lingered in the hallway. Behind my back? Mara sighed, hanging up the phone. Don't be dramatic. It was necessary. Necessary? My laugh came out sharp, bitter. You hired a... I swallowed the word demon, lowering my voice. Whatever he is, to follow me without telling me, to feed on my fear like I'm some kind of fuel source. You're not the story, Iris, she said, voice icy. You're the vessel, the mouthpiece. If you burn out, if you die, the project dies with you. I'm not protecting you, I'm protecting the story. Her words gutted me worse than Devon's betrayal had. At least he'd admitted fear. Mara reduced me to a tool. I've risked everything for this article, I said, my throat tight. My sources, my family, my life. And now it's paying off, she cut in smoothly. Traffic's up, donors are watching, the paper has relevance again. Don't mistake yourself for the cause. You're just the messenger. I wanted to throw something, to shatter her glass walls and watch them rain down like truth finally breaking through. But all I managed was a whisper. You used me. Mara's eyes softened a fraction, but only for effect. Grow thicker skin, Iris. Journalists are weapons. I'm simply making sure you're sharp enough to cut. I left before I screamed. Kael was waiting in the hallway. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't need to. My expression must have been enough. You knew, I accused, my voice low and shaking. You knew she signed you on. You knew I never had a choice. His silver blue gaze didn't flicker. Yes. The confirmation sliced through me. So all this time, you were part of her game. I was bound by contract, he said evenly. I didn't choose the hand that dealt me. That's convenient, I spat. Hide behind rules. Pretend you're not complicit while you drain me like a battery. His jaw tightened. For once, I saw the faintest crack in his composure. You think I enjoy this? That I wanted to tie my existence to your heartbeat because your editor thought it profitable? Then why stay? He stepped closer, the faint glow under his collar lighting the space between us. Because now I choose. Stay or go. That's not Mara's call anymore. It's yours. The air thickened between us, heavy with anger and something I couldn't name. You don't get it, I whispered, voice raw. I don't want cages. Not hers. Not yours. I'm not your cage, he said, so quietly it nearly broke me. I'm your shield, and one day you'll decide if that's worth keeping. I turned away before he could see my eyes burn. Because I didn't know the answer yet. The warehouse smelled of rust and stale water, the kind of place where secrets were stored until they rotted. The windows were broken, jagged glass teeth framing the night. Shadows stretched across the concrete floor like they had claws, and in the middle of it, bound to a chair, was my brother. Luca! My voice cracked as it echoed through the cavernous space. He lifted his head. His face was pale, a cut blooming purple across his cheekbone. His wrists were tied, rope biting into his skin. When he saw me, his lips trembled into a broken smile. Iris, don't. Two men flanked him, suits without ties, guns in their hands. Behind them, a third figure stepped forward. Older, heavier, with rings that glittered in the dim light. His smirk was slow, deliberate. Miss Vale, he drawled, the voice of the people, the righteous fire of the newsroom. His eyes slid to Luca, then back to me. Tell me, how much is your fire worth when family's on the line? My stomach twisted. Let him go. He's not part of this. Of course he is. The man's tone was almost amused. Everyone's part of it sooner or later. But you're special. Your little exposes are costing me business. That makes you expensive. He leaned closer, voice lowering. Sensation is costly, but your life, Iris, your life is priceless. To you. The words chilled me more than the gun barrel pointing in my direction. Kael moved closer, his presence sharp as a blade at my back. Step aside, he murmured, eyes locked on the men. I shook my head. My throat was tight, my hands trembling, but I forced the words out. No, if I fight, he dies. The boss chuckled. Smart girl, knows when to fold. The men tightened their grips on their weapons. Luca's breath hitched, ragged and fast. I turned toward Kael. His eyes glowed faintly, lines of light flickering along his jaw, but they were weak, barely there. "Why?" I whispered. "Why aren't you stronger?" "Because you're suppressing it," he said, voice low, urgent. "You're holding your fear down. And without it, I'm blind." I froze. "You want to be brave for him," Kael continued, gaze cutting into mine. "But your false courage weakens us both. If you deny your fear, I can't protect you. Or him." The mafia boss tilted his head. "What's the whisper about? Plotting something?" I clenched my fists. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. The truth was unbearable. My instinct to stay calm, to lock it all down, was killing our chances. I forced myself to look at Luca, at the ropes digging into his wrists, at the bruise on his face. My chest heaved. The terror I'd been strangling broke free, raw and feral, and I felt it flood me like fire. Kael inhaled sharply. The marks along his skin flared, sudden and bright, curling like molten silver across his throat and down his hands. The men faltered, eyes widening. The boss narrowed his gaze. "What are you?" Kael's lips curved into something cold. Her shield. The next moment was chaos. Guns lifted. Kael moved like a storm unleashed, light shattering against bullet fire. His barrier screamed with sparks as metal met shimmering force. I threw myself forward, knees scraping concrete, reaching for Luca. His eyes were wide, terrified, but alive. "Stay with me," I hissed, tugging at the ropes. Kael's voice thundered over the clash. "Iris, don't stop. Keep feeling it. If you go cold now, we both fall." Fear boiled in my chest, sharp and merciless. For once I didn't fight it. I let it burn, and Kael burned with me. The warehouse was a battlefield of shadows and sparks. Bullets cracked against Kael's shield, each impact dimmer than the last. The shimmering lines on his skin flickered, thinning like candlelight in a storm. I clutched Luca's bound wrists, nails digging into the rope, but my hands shook so badly I could hardly tear at the knots. The air reeked of gunpowder and rust. My brother's breath came in terrified gasps. Kael staggered as another shot slammed against his barrier. The glow along his arms sputtered. His teeth clenched. "Iris!" His voice was ragged, strained. "You're slipping." "I'm fine," I snapped, though my chest felt hollow. "I can handle this. You're not fine," he barked. The barrier wavered, bullets sparking dangerously close. "You're shutting it down, freezing, and I can't fight blind." I wanted to scream that I had to shut it down, that if I let the fear through, it would drown me. Journalists didn't get to panic. We survived by control, by keeping the tremors hidden. But Kael was right. Every time I bit back the terror, his light dimmed. The mafia boss stepped forward, smug in the chaos. "See? The more she resists, the weaker you become. Brave little Iris Vale, so desperate to prove she's unshakable." He cocked his gun, aiming at Luca's head. "What happens when the mask cracks?" "No!" I lunged forward, heart tearing in my chest. The gun glinted in the low light. My brother whimpered, and then I felt it, the truth clawing at my throat. I wasn't fine. I wasn't strong enough to smother this. I was terrified. The admission crashed through me like a dam breaking. Fear poured out, hot, overwhelming, unstoppable. My heart hammered, my breath hitched, and I let it all spill free. The effect was instant. Kael roared as the light burst across his body, not flickering this time, but surging, molten and alive. The shield didn't just shimmer, it erupted, a dome of blinding, silver-blue fire that knocked the gunman back with a force like a hurricane. Bullets vaporized midair, dissolving into sparks. The mafia boss staggered, arm thrown over his face. What is this?" Kael's voice was thunder. "This is what happens when she stops lying." I tore through the ropes around Luca with a jagged piece of glass, dragging him behind cover. My entire body shook, but not from cold, from the raw current of fear and adrenaline blazing through me. Kael struck like lightning. His fists crashed into the floor, sending shockwaves of energy that toppled crates and sent gunmen sprawling. The sigils across his skin glowed brighter with every beat of my heart. I couldn't take my eyes off him. For weeks he had been cold, controlled, untouchable. But now he was alive in a way I'd never seen, every movement powered by the storm inside me. It was terrifying. It was breathtaking. And then, in the chaos, he turned to me. We locked eyes across the flickering battlefield. His chest heaved. The light carved him into something both inhuman and impossibly real. "Iris," he said, voice rough, urgent. Before I could answer, he closed the distance, grabbed me, and kissed me. It wasn't calculated, wasn't careful. It was fierce, desperate, as if he was claiming more than just my lips, as if he was claiming the truth I'd finally let free. My fear surged again, but this time it didn't weaken me. It surged into him, into us, burning brighter. For one heartbeat I felt invincible. When he pulled away, his forehead pressed to mine, his eyes blazed brighter than the gunfire. "Never hide from me again," he murmured. "Your fear is not your weakness, it's your weapon." Behind us, the last of the gunmen scrambled for the exit. The boss cursed, retreating into the shadows, his empire crumbling as quickly as his confidence. Kael straightened, the shield pulsing outward one final time, scattering the last resistance. Then, silence. The warehouse stank of smoke and sweat. My brother trembled at my side, freed but shaken. I could barely stand, knees weak, heart racing out of control. But Kael was steady now, glowing faintly in the dark. Together we had survived. And for the first time I knew survival wasn't enough anymore. Because he hadn't just kissed me like a bodyguard claiming victory. He had kissed me like a man choosing me. And God help me, I had kissed him back. The newsroom felt colder the day I quit. I walked straight through the glass doors, my resignation letter in one hand and my recorder in the other. My pulse hammered, but it wasn't fear this time. It was clarity. Mara met me in her office, lips pursed, tablet clutched like a weapon. "You're making a mistake, Iris. Don't throw away your platform." "No," I said, steady. "I'm throwing away your leash." Her eyes narrowed. "You think you'll survive on your own? Without us, without protection, without Kael?" I hit the button on the recorder. The red light blinked. "Funny you mention him. Because I know about the contract. You hired him, not for me, for your story. To keep me alive long enough to bleed copy onto your front page." Gasps rippled from the few reporters who had gathered, drawn by the confrontation. I raised my voice so they could all hear. "Let the record show the editor-in-chief of this paper manipulated her own staff, silenced her sources, and put lives in danger for clicks." Mara's face froze. "I'm done being your tool," I said. "If I'm going to risk my life, it'll be for my truth, not yours." I set the letter on her desk, shut off the recorder, and walked out. My legs shook, but my spine had never been straighter. The next week, my living room turned into ground zero for reinvention. Stacks of folders, laptops, cables, and too much coffee littered every surface. Hana Ortiz, graphic designer, best friend, chaos incarnate, sat cross-legged on the floor, typing furiously. "We'll call it the Independent Lens," she announced. "Simple, bold, easy to remember. You'll write. I'll design. We'll crowdfund the rest." I snorted. "Catchy. And doesn't sound at all like a spy novel." Hana grinned. "Exactly." For the first time in months, I felt a spark that wasn't dread. It was excitement. Luca drifted in from the kitchen, still pale, still carrying guilt in the slump of his shoulders. But his voice was firmer now. "I talked to the detectives," he said quietly. "I'm cooperating. Giving them everything I know about Salvi's network. It's not enough to fix what I did, but it's a start." I crossed the room and pulled him into a hug. "It's more than a start. It's the first step." His arms tightened around me, and for the first time in a long while I believed we might actually heal. That night, Kael appeared in the doorway, as silent as ever. His eyes glowed faintly in the low light. "You're leaving the paper," he said. "Already did." I folded my arms, daring him to argue. "Good." That one word stopped me. "Good?" He stepped forward, shadows shifting with him. "Because the contract is broken. I was bound to Mara's deal, not yours. With your resignation, the chain snaps." My breath caught. "So, you're free?" He nodded once. A strange ache pressed into my chest. I wanted to say then go, that I'd be fine, that I didn't need him. But the words tangled in my throat. Before I could force them out, he spoke again. "But I'm staying." I blinked. What? His gaze locked onto mine, steady, unflinching. You're my only contract now. The only one I won't give up. The air between us pulsed. Not with fear this time, but something deeper. My heart beat fast, not because of danger, but because of the choice he'd just made. Voluntarily. For me. I swallowed hard. You're ridiculous, perhaps. His mouth curved in the faintest, rarest smile. But I'm not leaving. A month later, the Independent Lens opened its first office, a cramped loft above a laundromat, with leaky pipes and the best view of the city skyline I'd ever had. Hana set up a neon sign in the window. Luca carried in boxes. I arranged my desk with a brand new recorder, still smelling of fresh plastic. Kael? He checked the locks. Every single one. Twice. You know, I said, dropping into my chair. Most people celebrate a new office with champagne, not a security audit. He shot me a sidelong glance, silver blue eyes catching the morning light. Most people don't attract death threats before lunch, I groaned, burying my face in my hands. Why do I feel like I traded one warden for another? He adjusted the deadbolt, utterly calm. Because you did. Unbelievable. Kael straightened, crossing the room with that predator's grace. He stopped at my desk, leaning down just enough for his shadow to fall over me. No demon would endure your stubbornness for long, he said quietly. Except me. I rolled my eyes, but my lips betrayed me with a smile. Lucky me. He didn't answer. But when I glanced up, his expression was softer than I'd ever seen. And for the first time since the night in the parking garage, I believed him.